You know, there's a simple truth people often forget. Stop talking about your life. Sounds harsh, right? Especially these days when everyone shares every little detail, every breakfast, every mood. We live in an era of endless status updates, stories, and posts. It seems if you haven't talked about your victory, your defeat, or even just how you woke up, it didn't really happen. But what if that's not true? What if the very act of silence holds a power we've lost? Stoicism, this ancient yet surprisingly relevant philosophy, can teach us this. It won't just teach you, it'll show you how it works in practice. I'll share 10 lessons that will help you become stronger, calmer, and, surprisingly, happier if you simply stop talking so much about yourself. Lesson 1. Words cheapen actions. You decide to start running every morning. Great idea. You're so enthusiastic, you immediately tell all your friends, colleagues, even your grandma, "I'm going to be a fitness fanatic now, 10 kilometers every day." And what happens? You get a dose of approval, likes, supportive comments. Your brain registers this as an achievement of sorts. You've already, in a way, received your reward. Then morning comes, it's dark, cold, and you really don't want to get up. You think, well, I've already told everyone, they know I'm planning it, I can start tomorrow. That's the problem. Words drain the energy you need for action. Stoics said, it's better to be than to seem. If you want to do something, just do it. No announcements, no fanfare. The results will speak for themselves. Remember in school how the top students often quietly went about their business while the struggling ones loudly proclaimed their ambitions? It's similar. Think about how many times you or someone you know made grand declarations about a new beginning, ambitious projects, or unprecedented changes only to never move an inch. Why? Because a portion of the energy that should have been directed towards the action itself was spent on self-promotion. It's like an athlete who constantly gives interviews about breaking a world record instead of putting in the grueling training. Noise creates the illusion of movement, but it isn't movement. True progress happens in silence, when you're focused on the process, not its external display. This doesn't mean you can't share the joy of your victories, but share what's already accomplished, not a promise. Otherwise, you risk deceiving yourself, mistaking words for deeds. And it's not just about losing energy. There's another subtle point. When you loudly declare your intentions, you put yourself under unspoken scrutiny. If you don't follow through on what you promised, it hurts your reputation, your self-respect. Every time you don't finish something after making grand announcements, you send a signal to yourself and others, "My words can't be trusted." Stoics, however, taught that a person of their word is a person of action. They didn't separate these concepts. Your words should reflect your actions, not precede them. Don't promise something you're not 100% sure about, and don't talk about what hasn't been done yet. This creates an inner integrity that is priceless. You become reliable, first and foremost to yourself, and only then to those around you. Imagine you want to quit smoking. You announce it to the world, then you slip up. How does that feel? Shame, guilt, disappointment? But what if you had just quietly quit? No one would know about your struggles, and you'd feel proud of your willpower. This doesn't mean you shouldn't seek support, but support is needed in actions, not just words.
Lesson 2. Less talk, more clarity of thought. When you constantly talk about your plans, dreams, and problems, you invite other people into your head. They offer advice, ask questions, express doubts. All of this is noise. This noise pollutes your own thinking. You start to see your goals through other people's eyes. Stoics believed that a person's inner world is their fortress. Why let everyone in if it weakens the walls? If you need to solve a complex problem, you wouldn't discuss it with just anyone. You'd sit down, think, and concentrate. The same applies to life. If you constantly vocalize every thought, you deprive yourself of the opportunity to quietly, calmly, and deeply ponder it. Imagine you have a very valuable idea. You want to bring it to fruition. If you start telling everyone about it, it might be distorted, diluted by others' opinions, or even stolen. Sometimes it's better to keep your genius a secret until it matures. Think about how often, after sharing an idea, you later regretted it. Someone might have said it was foolish, and you lost faith. Someone might have simply stolen it and passed it off as their own. Or sometimes mere discussion threw you off balance, and you lost the initial spark. Stoics taught that clarity of mind requires inner silence. This silence doesn't mean isolation, but it does mean being selective about what you let into your mind. You choose who and what influences your thoughts. When you don't broadcast your internal dialogues, you preserve that space for yourself, for your growth, for forming truly strong, unwavering convictions. It's like how a builder constructs a house. They don't discuss every detail with every passerby. They just build following the plan, and only then do they show the finished result. Consider how much time we spend mentally rehearsing our stories. We replay in our minds how we'll describe a certain situation, which phrase to use to make an impression. This is also noise. This internal monologue, aimed at an external audience, distracts you from the core of the problem or task. Imagine you're trying to solve a complex puzzle, and someone next to you is constantly commenting on your actions, suggesting their own solutions. This doesn't help, it hinders. The same thing happens when you're constantly preparing to perform your life. You lose focus on the internal process, on the depth of your experiences and thoughts. Stoics strived for inner tranquility, ataraxia. And you can only achieve it if your inner world is free from unnecessary noise. Silence about your life helps with this. It creates a vacuum that is filled with your own undistorted thoughts and feelings.
Lesson 3. Humility is strength. We live in an age where boasting is common. New purchases, career successes, even how well you spent your vacation. And the more you boast, the more you depend on the opinions of others. Stoics taught that true greatness needs no applause. Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor and philosopher, could have basked in glory, but he was known for his humility and restraint. He understood that external approval is fleeting. True inner satisfaction, that's what really matters. When you don't shout about your victories, you give no one cause for envy. You don't put yourself on a pedestal from which you can fall hard. And if you fall, you do it quietly, giving no cause for schadenfreude to those who await your failure. Humility is a shield. It protects you from others' expectations, others' judgments, and others' envy. Think about how many times you've seen someone who boasted too much then find themselves in an awkward situation. Or how someone who seemed highly successful suddenly lost everything, and their fall was much more painful because they had so conspicuously paraded their achievements. Humility gives you stability. It allows you to genuinely value your successes without external tinsel. You know your worth regardless of what others say, and that knowledge is a far stronger foundation for happiness than any ovation. When you don't seek external validation, you free yourself from the need to constantly meet others' expectations. You become authentic, not a version of yourself created for public consumption. Furthermore, boasting often generates negative emotions in others: envy, judgment, subtle ill will. People don't always rejoice in others' successes as genuinely as their own. And when you flaunt your achievements, you unintentionally provoke these negative reactions. Stoics taught that a wise person strives to live in harmony with the world, not to provoke conflict or negativity. Humility, in this case, is not weakness, but a wise strategy. It allows you to move forward without drawing unnecessary attention, without creating enemies for yourself. Think about those who truly achieved greatness in history. They were often very humble. Their deeds spoke for themselves. They didn't need self-promotion. Their legacy lives on not because of their words, but because of their actions and their impact on the world. Be like a deep well. Its waters are hidden from sight, but they nourish life around it.
Lesson 4. Control what you can control. This is perhaps one of the most fundamental lessons of Stoicism. We can't control the weather, other people's opinions, or traffic jams, but we can control our thoughts, our words, and our actions. When you constantly talk about your life, you're trying to control what's beyond your power, other people's reactions. You expect a certain response from them, a certain approval, a certain reaction, and when you don't get them, you get upset. It's like trying to command the wind. Useless. Focus on what's within your power, your actions, your attitude, your inner reaction to external events. If you quietly work on yourself, on your projects, you don't waste energy trying to control others' perceptions. You just do, and that gives you incredible freedom. Imagine this scenario. You tell a friend about your dream of opening a coffee shop, and they respond, "Oh, that's so much hassle and the market is oversaturated." Their words bother you, and you start to doubt yourself. But why did you tell them in the first place if their opinion has no direct bearing on your capabilities? If you had just started acting, researching the market, finding a location, learning to brew coffee, those actions would depend only on you. And even if something went wrong, you'd learn from your mistakes, not from someone else's doubts. Stoics teach us to accept what we cannot change and focus on what is within our power. Your words are within your power. Their absence, their thoughtfulness, that's your choice. And that choice determines how free you are from external pressure. When you stop talking about your life, you stop giving others weapons against you. Every revelation, every story of yours is information that others can use, not always with malicious intent, but often simply due to misunderstanding, envy, or a desire to assert themselves. Why give cause for gossip, speculation, or misinterpretation? Stoics taught that a person should be self-sufficient and not depend on external circumstances, including others' opinions. If you keep your cards close to your chest, you preserve your inner strength. You don't give others the opportunity to influence your mood or your decisions. This isn't paranoia, it's reasonable foresight. You become more protected and less vulnerable to external influences. Your inner life becomes your inviolable space.
Lesson 5. Live in the present moment. When you constantly talk about your life, you're either living in the past, recounting what has already happened, or in the future, describing your plans. Both pull you away from the present. Stoics said the only moment we have is now. The past can't be retrieved. The future hasn't arrived. When you're focused on telling a story, you're not living it. You miss the nuances. You don't feel the fullness of the moment. Imagine you're at a concert of your favorite band. If you constantly record videos and upload them to social media, you'll miss the atmosphere, the energy, the sound. You'll be watching the concert through your phone screen, not with your eyes. The same goes for life. Stop being a chronicler of your life. Become an active participant. How many times have you been at a party or meeting with friends, and instead of enjoying the company, you scrolled through your feed or thought about what to post about the event? Or, conversely, recounted old stories instead of creating new ones? Stoics believe that every moment is a gift, and it should be lived to the fullest. If you constantly think about how your life looks from the outside, how it sounds in your stories, you lose touch with its true experience. Enjoy your food when you eat. Listen to the person when they speak. Feel the wind when it blows. Live here and now. It's all you have. Sometimes we get so caught up in telling stories about our lives that we start living in those stories, not in reality. We create an idealized image of ourselves, our personal legend, and then try to conform to it instead of simply being ourselves. This leads to a dissonance between who you truly are and who you portray yourself to be. Stoics taught that one must be authentic, and authenticity is achieved not through constant self-description, but through self-knowledge and self-acceptance. When you stop talking about yourself, you give yourself the opportunity to simply be, without masks or pretense. You start to notice those details of your life that previously escaped your attention because you were busy forming an external image. In this silence, you gain a true understanding of yourself and the world.
Lesson 6. Learn to listen. When you stop talking about yourself, you have more time and attention to listen to others. This isn't just politeness, it's a powerful tool for learning and understanding the world. Epictetus, another great Stoic, said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen more and speak less." By listening, you learn something new, understand another's perspective, and develop empathy. You stop being the center of the universe in your own head and start seeing how the world around you works. This makes you wiser and your relationships with people deeper. When you're constantly talking about yourself, you miss the opportunity to learn something truly valuable from others. Think about how much you can learn by just letting someone speak their mind. They might tell you about their experiences, their mistakes, their discoveries. If you're constantly waiting for your turn to interject something about yourself, you deprive yourself of this opportunity. True communication isn't a monologue, it's a dialogue, and dialogue requires the ability to listen. Stoics valued wisdom, and it often comes not through one's own speeches, but through attentive perception of the world and people. Listening is an act of humility that paradoxically makes you stronger. When you truly listen, you show respect to the speaker. This builds trust and strengthens connections. People feel valued, that their opinion matters. And ultimately, this comes back to you in the form of higher quality relationships, deeper conversations, and more valuable knowledge. Imagine interacting with someone who constantly interrupts you to talk about themselves. After a while, you'd simply stop sharing with them. But if you listen attentively, ask clarifying questions, and show genuine interest, the person opens up to you, and you learn much more. Stoics understood that wisdom lies not in speaking a lot, but in speaking appropriately and listening carefully.
Lesson 7. Discipline of speech is discipline of thought. If you don't control what you say, you don't control what you think. Chattering is often a sign of a chaotic mind. Stoics paid enormous attention to self-control. Control over speech is one of its most important forms. If you can refrain from recounting every step you take, every emotion you feel, you develop inner discipline. This discipline extends to your thoughts. You start to think more clearly, more purposefully. You become more self-aware. It's like training muscles. The more you practice restraint in speech, the stronger your inner core becomes. Try not telling anyone about your plans, your worries, or what you ate for breakfast for a week. You'll notice how many unnecessary thoughts stop swirling in your head. You'll stop replaying in your mind how to tell something, how to present it. All that energy will be directed towards more productive reflections. Stoics believed that the mind is your main tool, and it needs to be kept clean and organized. Uncontrolled chatter is like clutter that clogs this tool. Controlling your speech is also a practice of mindfulness. Before you say something, you start to consider, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Is it helpful? These questions, often attributed to Socrates, serve as an excellent filter for your words. If you apply this filter, you automatically stop talking idly. You start speaking only when you have something truly important to say. This makes your words more weighty, more meaningful, and those around you begin to treat your words with greater respect. They know you're not just chatting, but speaking thoughtfully. This discipline extends to your internal monologues as well. You begin to cut out unnecessary thoughts and useless worries. Your mind becomes calmer and more effective.
Lesson 8. Less dependence on others' opinions. When you talk about yourself, you subconsciously seek validation and approval. You make your self-worth dependent on the reactions of others. This is a dangerous game. Other people's opinions are as changeable as the wind. Today they praise you, tomorrow they criticize you. Stoics taught us to be self-sufficient. Your worth shouldn't be defined by what others think of you. It's within you. If you stop seeking approval through your stories, you start relying on your own judgment. You trust yourself more. You're not afraid of being misunderstood or judged. This is an incredible feeling of freedom. Imagine you've done something truly important for yourself. If you wait for someone to praise you for it, and it doesn't happen, you might feel disappointed. But if you did it because it was important to you, then the external reaction doesn't matter. You've already received the reward, inner satisfaction. This makes you invulnerable to criticism and indifferent to praise. You become the master of your emotions, not their hostage. Stoics strived for apatheia, not in the sense of indifference, but in the sense of freedom from external emotional dependence. And talking less about yourself is one way to achieve this independence. We live in a society that constantly demands external validation of our worth. Social media is the perfect tool for this. We post photos, write updates, and wait for likes and comments. And the more we get, the better we feel. But this is a false feeling. It's like a drug. It provides a temporary high, but doesn't solve the problem of your inner insecurity. Stoics urged us to focus on internal work, to understand that your worth doesn't depend on how many people praise you or how much money you have in your bank account. Your worth lies in your virtue, your character, your ability to think and act according to reason. When you understand this, you stop needing external approval. You become free from this addiction. And this freedom is the key to true tranquility and happiness. Lesson 9. Act for the sake of action, not for glory. We often do things to gain praise and recognition. An athlete trains to win medals. An artist paints a picture to have it displayed in a gallery. But what if you do something simply because it's right, because it aligns with your principles, because it brings you inner satisfaction? Stoics taught that virtue is its own reward. If you help someone without expecting gratitude, it's far more valuable. If you work on a project because you believe in it, not because you want to boast about the result, your work will be of higher quality and more meaningful. Stop talking about your good deeds, about your achievements. Let them be your inner secret. This will make them purer and more sincere. Remember the stories of heroes who performed great deeds without seeking recognition. Their actions were motivated not by a desire for fame, but by an inner sense of duty or justice. Such actions leave the deepest mark. If you do something for external validation, you risk losing your sincerity. You become an actor on the stage of your life, constantly performing for the audience. But when you act for the sake of the activity itself, you become a true creator who enjoys the process itself, not just the anticipated outcome. This gives you a feeling of deep inner satisfaction that no amount of praise can provide. Consider how much deeper your experience becomes when you expect no external reward from it. When you help an elderly person cross the street, you do it not for praise, but because it's the right thing to do. And the feeling you get from it is far more valuable than any thanks. If you write music or paint, not for sales or exhibitions, but simply because you can't help but create, then your art becomes purer. It comes from the heart. Stoics called this acting for the sake of virtue. This means
You do the right things because they are right, not because they will bring you something from the outside. This frees you from the endless race for recognition and allows you to enjoy the process of life itself.
Lesson 10. The power of silence. Sometimes silence is the loudest answer. Silence can express wisdom, serenity, and dignity. When you're not rushing to fill every pause with talk about yourself, you allow something greater to emerge. You give yourself the chance to think, to reflect. You give the other person a chance to speak. Silence is a space for growth, for insights, for true understanding. It allows you to be an observer, not just a participant. In a world where everyone is shouting about themselves, the one who is silent stands out. And their silence is often far more eloquent than 1,000 words. Think about the wisest people you know. Often they aren't the most talkative. They listen, they observe, and when they do speak, their words carry weight. Silence isn't emptiness, it's fullness. It's a time when you can truly understand your thoughts and feelings rather than just blurting them out. It's a space for intuition, for deep reflection. In today's world, with so much noise and constant information flow, the ability to be silent and to be content in that silence is almost a superpower. It allows you to find inner peace, to focus on what truly matters, and not to succumb to external distractions. Silence is your personal sanctuary where outsiders are not permitted. Silence gives you the opportunity to be alone with yourself, to truly feel your emotions rather than suppressing them with chatter. It allows you to process information coming from outside rather than just reacting reflexively to it. In silence, the deepest ideas are born, the most correct decisions are made. In it, you can hear your inner voice, which is often drowned out by the noise of the outside world and your own endless stories. Silence is not just the absence of sound, it is the absence of mental clutter. It is a state where you can be completely present without the desire to impress, without the need to explain, without the fear of being misunderstood. It is the path to true self-knowledge and harmony. Try spending at least an hour a day in complete silence. No phone, no books, no music. Just sit and be. You'll be surprised how much you learn about yourself. So give it a try. Don't jump to extremes right away. Just start small. Catch yourself when you're about to talk about something personal. Stop. Think, why am I saying this? What do I hope to gain? And perhaps you'll realize it's better to keep it to yourself. Gradually, you'll start to feel this new strength, this new freedom. You'll become the master of your words, your thoughts, your life. You'll see how your relationships with people change. They'll become deeper and more genuine because you'll start listening to them, not just waiting for your turn to speak. Your self-esteem will strengthen because it will no longer depend on others' evaluations. Your actions will become more meaningful because you'll perform them for your own sake, not for an audience. You'll become more focused, calmer, wiser, and believe me, that's far more valuable than any like or comment. Give it a try. You'll like it. What if the best story about your life is the one no one but you has heard, but which you've lived to the fullest?